What's the worst item you've ever found that was left behind from a tenant?
Oh, fortunately, kind of like where the person passed away, like kind of like an outprint of their body almost.
We actually found a diamond ring. Whoa, this must have been the 99-year-old woman's ring. And then they're like, yeah, that's great. You found the ring. And they're like, yeah, by the way, that's where she died over there. And we're like, what? A lot of people invest in the index funds. I'm thinking the index funds, those are the safe bet. Then you get an Airbnb, that's like buying the Tesla stock. You get another 15 unit and that acts as your Bitcoin, right? You're taking shots on certain things, but the tried and true index funds, those are the stable buy and hold long-term 30-year that we typically do. You can run those as midterm rentals if you'd like. It's the strategy within. It's just what box are you buying in?
We've done the C+ class neighborhoods. And what we've realized is that having a blend is almost like diversification of hedging your own bets in this real estate game. So yeah, you need a buy box, but we've got to this point now where opportunity comes and we can kind of figure out what our overall strategy is with the property without pigeonholing ourselves to only one specific strategy. And you just have to mitigate some of the losses, and we're not afraid to lose at this point.
Welcome to the JV Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Vasquez. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JV Pod. Today, I am super excited because we have Ryan and Cory from Wealth Juice hanging out with us, and we dug deep into their stories about real estate. We even tackled the age-old question, would you rather rent to Bigfoot or an alien? Important stuff, folks. But seriously, we dove into personal growth, self-development, and why your business is not growing. We talk about practical advice on how to actually start to build a business and buy your first property. We talked about the stock market and why investing in real estate, I believe, and also Cory and Ryan believe that it is a safer play to invest in real estate today than it is to invest in the stock market. We talk about diversification. We talk about midterm rentals. We talk about growth. We talk about life. We talk about all things. So you guys are actually going to really love this episode. I believe these two guys are onto something really great. There's great conversation to be had here, and you guys are in for a treat. I'm going to stop talking now. Well, I'm going to continue to talk, but in a different, I'm going to stop. You guys just listen to this right here. But before I let you go, if you could do me a huge solid, go subscribe and like this page. Not only does it help me, it helps the algorithm. And if you could do me another favor, because you could do it at the exact same time, just go and leave a review on this. It helps tremendously with getting in front of people, so I can have more people like Cory and Ryan on the show. And honestly, so we can get in front of more people and help them in their journeys wherever they're at. One last thing I'm going to ask you guys, if you haven't already, get your tickets to the Midterm Rental Summit, which I'm holding in San Diego, April 27th to the 29th. We're going to have speakers like Dan Martell, Pace Morby, Ziona McIntyre, Noble Crawford, Shelby Sapp. We're going to have all these people that are going to be talking specifically about how to grow your midterm rental business, how to think creatively. And honestly, midterm rentals are about connecting with other people. So if you haven't got your tickets, head over to the midtermrentalsummit.com. We'd love to see you guys in the beautiful city of San Diego. Let's get right into this right now. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the JV Pod. I am super excited because I have my friends Cory and Ryan, who I think you guys met over at Temple University. Am I right on that, man?
Yes, Temple University, go Owls. Ryan and I met 14 years ago now.
14 years ago. Dang. What were you guys doing? What were you guys studying? Was there anything in particular you guys were studying out there?
Studying how to be in a fraternity. Yeah, that's what we were studying. I was, if you can believe it, I was an entrepreneurship major, which is like an oxymoron at college, but I was in the business school. I think, Ryan, you were communications or media, right?
Yeah, media, business, and entrepreneurship minor. So it's very interesting. We're actually very interesting now that we're entrepreneurs because we technically studied that, if you think about it.
I don't think that's even a thing you can study in school, though. I don't even remember a dang thing from that. I think it's just funny that it's a major in college, actually, because it's almost the opposite of college.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you guys right now, did you get anything out of it that you're like, man, I'm actually using some of those things that we grabbed in school at that point?
I mean, no, zero for me, literally. The only thing I'll say is the extracurriculars and joining a fraternity. That's how Ryan and I met. So doing those things on the networking side of things, and Ryan will tell the story. He was the first one to get a job out of his friends because he was in a fraternity and people were mad about him paying to play and all that stuff. And now we coach people, and it's we see so much value in the networking and the mentorship that is what college taught me is to create the connections with people in between the four walls of school. I couldn't even tell you a dang thing I learned. I really couldn't.
Yeah. 100%. I think so. Funny enough, at an 8th grade, I'll kick it back there. K through 8, I went to the same school with the same kids. Then 9th grade, 9 through 12, I moved. I we lived in the same area, but I went to a private Catholic school like 45 minutes away. So I had to start and make new friends from scratch. And then again for college, I moved to Philadelphia from Massachusetts, which is making a whole new group of friends. But I had already done it once. So I kind of learned how to do it. But to Cory's point here, you can go through the books and things, but I just remember cramming the night before or 2 nights before, getting all this information, hitting the test, getting an A or B and being done, right? And like figuring out, but then it's fleeting, right? You forget about it. I think the number one thing I learned in college was how to create connections and up my communication skills and go through experiences. If I could, say to anyone that, I'm a believer in college, not for so much the education, but for getting yourself out of your comfort zone and going and meeting new people and getting involved in the programs that they have, whether it's Greek life, whether it's extracurriculars, playing sports or things like that, clubs. There's a lot of things. That's how you meet a bunch of different walks of life. For me, I had the upbringing of, that every person looked the same. We were in this little bubble. And then when I get to college, it's a melting pot. And I finally got to meet new walks of life and people that were struggling, people that were doing way better than me. And so that gave me the first taste of the real world. So I don't think I would have had that. And I probably would have just went into the workforce, just, like a cookie cutter guy. So yeah, man, to echo Cory's point, all about experiences. So that's my stamp for college.
Yeah. Ryan, where'd you grow up? Like you never saw a Mexican before and you went to college and you're like, man, there's my first Mexican guy. Is that
to be honest, not really, dude. Unless I went on vacation.
No way,
I grew up in Cape Cod, in Massachusetts. So it's very much a beach town. A lot of older folks, and summer's hot. There's a bunch of different people that come down, but then in the winters it's dead, dude. It's literally like a beach town. So similar to people that live down the Jersey Shore or something like that. So that might resonate with people. But truly, dude, like going to a private Catholic high school too, which was dominant, like mostly white guys and gals. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Then college, I'm like praying for something different. I'm like, dude, I just need to see the world. And, I think I kind of knew at a younger age, I was a little bit privileged in this little bubble. So for me, maybe that's why I love doing the podcast, because I'm so curious about people and how they got to where they got. And I just love learning about, struggles or where you came from. And I say this on a lot of podcasts, but I want to say it here. It's like, I always wish I could see a little speech bubble above someone's head and just like see their net worth and be like, dude, okay, how the heck did you get there? I just want to learn your story. And I love that type of stuff, man. But yeah, so melting pot was later for me, not early.
That's cool, man. Yeah, that's crazy, because I grew up in a little town in California, which there wasn't really a whole lot of diversity. I was like one of the only Mexican kids. We had like one black kid that went to our high school. Everybody else was white. And I was like, I wanted to be around other people. Like I remember I had an Indian friend and I went to his house. His name was Naveen, and like tasting Indian food for the first time. So I was friends with all the cultured kids. And so I learned a lot about like ethnicities and stuff early on, but although we all kind of like stuck together, like, we were like, there's a brown guy, we're going to go hang out with the brown guy. It was kind of like prison in a way, but it wasn't prison. And then I started skateboarding, and that was like a whole diverse, like totally different type of, it was everybody, bro. It wasn't just like white people skating. It was like you have black dudes skating, Mexican people skating, freaking Syrian dudes skating. And it was pretty cool to kind of see. But that's also awesome that you wanted to like get out of that. You were like, I'm ready to like experience culture and be around different people. And like that, I think that's a good way to think and to move through life, which is pretty damn awesome. I want to jump into this real quick because you guys have a Wealth Juice podcast that you've been doing for a couple of years now. You guys met 14 years ago, which is pretty cool when you're out at the entrepreneurial school, I guess, which is crazy because I've never heard of that now. But it sounds like none of that really translated to these days. So how the hell did you guys like get out of college? How did you remain friends? Like what happened afterwards? Let's go through the journey, and we'll talk about your guys' real estate space.
Yeah, so Ryan and I lived together outside of school. When we met, we kind of always knew that there was like some sort of connection, but you never really know what you're going to do with that. So we met college, lived together outside of school, and then when we were living together, we both like I got married. He went and lived with his wife. They bought a house together, and then I house hacked. I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath, and I went from paying like around $1,000 a month, I think it was, in rent, to living for free. I had the roommates that we were living with come with me and live in my house. And I realized like, wow, this real estate thing is pretty cool. Like I just saved a bunch of money. And then I was able to take that money and then go put it into a duplex in New Jersey. And Rye saw that I posted that on Instagram, and he was like, dude, we've been talking about personal finance. We've been talking about real estate. Like we always wanted to get into this just out of the 9-to-5. Like we're like, what is this 9-to-5 life? Like, is this it after college? And so we decided, and this was like very early, late early 2020. And we decided to start a podcast, social media platform to document our journey, and a real estate business all in the same year, and just said, hopefully people follow along with our journey. I hope it resonates with them. And honestly, it did. And I'm so glad we did that, because now we basically teach people how to buy their first or next after growing our portfolio to around 80 units, some of which we own the two of us. We like brute forced our way to 8 together. And then we started to partner with other people as general partners because we had validity through our podcast. So we grew it pretty quick. And now we teach people how to buy their first or next. And we teach people that personal branding is like the way. Like that's how we did it. I'm telling you, just documenting your journey and having people say, oh man, I don't know what to do in this situation. It's raining in my house here. I didn't realize you had to put a sump pump in the basement and fix the windows. And I always said that listening to Bigger Pockets, which inspired us greatly, was like me listening to somebody in 1995 who built a 1,000-unit portfolio. And I was like, this doesn't help me. Maybe what would help me is following along with people who are a few steps ahead. And we wanted to be that light for people, and it worked out. And here we are with our podcast going on 5 years.
That's freaking wild. So when you guys started Wealth Juice, did you guys had a couple properties already? Were you like already moving along? Was it like you just had your 6 and you're just like, we're going to start this tomorrow? Like, what was that like?
We had 2 units, right? Maybe 3 units when we started. It was called the weekly juice at one point. That was because you were filling up your cup each week with us. That was the. And honestly, I'm so glad that we created something that was just a little bit diverse, a little bit different. We changed it to Wealth Juice because now you actually know what the hell you're listening to. But we started with literally a couple units, and I came to Rye with this idea, and I know him really well, and he would be like, what are you talking about? But then once I like really talked to him about it, he's like, well, you know what? If there's anything about me, if we're going to do something, like we're going to do it. Like we're going to go all in. And we started with 1 podcast a week. We did that for 3.5 years. And now we're at 2 a week. We post on social media every single day for the past 5 years. The consistency is what really has carried us through. And also just not caring about what other people think. Like this is our thing. This is our journey. I hope people follow along. And if you don't, that's cool too. But there's a lot of people that have been inspired from it, and I'm proud about that, you know? So that's kind of the story.
That's pretty awesome, man, that you guys decided to do that. And you guys are still buddies even to this day, which
we're
is
married, dude,
awesome.
Basically.
You guys are married. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about your portfolio, because I'm assuming you guys probably have long-term, short-term, multifamily. Like, how did you start acquiring these properties? How did you start to because I think a lot of people get stuck when they hear like 80 properties, like there must be like some family money in there or some, like, how are they actually doing that? So can you guys talk about the strategies that you guys used to start to build this portfolio? And it sounds like you guys did a lot together, but how did you start to build this and get to 10 units, 20 to 30 to 40 to 50?
Yeah. So I'll talk to you about the trajectory a little bit of our portfolio. So that first couple properties, were house hacks. And then we bought a duplex in New Jersey. And this was just like us saving up cash, going in 50-50 on a deal. We weren't doing anything crazy with Burr. We were just saving up cash. We did it again. We bought another duplex. We bought a single family and then another duplex. And we had 6 to 8 units between us. And it was just like us saving up money and depleting and like taking advantage of our sales skills from our jobs and kind of meshing that together. But as we started to organically network with people like you and other really smart people from the podcast, what we realized is that actually our best way to scale was to use like our networking and communication skills to create an audience of people that know, like, and trust us, and then partner with operational people on the ground, like one of our good friends, Sean, who's in New Hampshire. So we partnered on an 18 unit. We were general partners on that. We partnered on a 7 unit, a 43 unit, most recently a 10 unit. And these scale for anything from a Section 8 18 unit property in Manchester, New Hampshire, to a boutique hotel that we use as like a short-term rental type venture in the Pocono Mountains. So these have all came organically from the creative relationships we had through the podcast and through social. And Ryan, maybe I left something out there. I'll let you jump in if you want.
I think you nailed it, dude. Yeah, I can definitely dive into it, but that was pretty darn concise.
All right, there you go.
I love that. All right, Ryan, I actually got a question for you. What are strategies for identifying and acquiring properties in like all these different markets? Because I think that's a thing on its own. But it sounds like you're connecting with people that already have boots on the ground. They have they already know the market. So you guys are just coming in as cash partners. Are you coming in as are you using your time for that? Like, how are you guys making those deals happen?
Sure. So we're basically leveraging our skill set, which is more on the investor relations sides. We have the community, we've built up a big audience, and we have a pool of a ton of people that are interested in doing deals, whether that's friends, family, community members, all that. And we found that there's a lot of operational partners that are lacking capital and then also lacking community, right? And so there's a couple different ways we go about it, but we're mainly looking for, we're very specific. Like anyone can go in and raise capital for a deal, right? And like bring people to a deal, but that can just get wonky. We're very selective with who we want to partner with. So namely for Sean up in New Hampshire, like we basically dated him for almost 2 years before we got into a deal together. And we wanted to make sure we were partnering with someone that was just like us, that had high morals, high values, high ethics, and like just things that they're not on paper, right? And you just have to really get to know someone as best as you possibly can. That's what Cory and I did for 10 years or at least 7 years before getting into a deal together. So going through that process, and then it's just identifying markets. I told you I grew up in New England, right? So I've wanted to get property in New England. So that was a big focus for me. I'm like, Cory, at some point, let's find a partner up there if we can. Sean came on our podcast. He went to BU, had a big background in finance, and then, shared his story on how he got into the syndication model in large multifamily. Cory and I knew we wanted to scale up, right? If you do the onesie twosies forever, you're just going to go through this cyclical cycle of saving up, dumping your money, saving up, dumping your money. It would take forever. So we got him with Sean, and really we manage all investor relations. We manage the property manager, and then communication. If anything you can think of on like the marketing side, we handle. And then Sean is boots on the ground. And I think we have another partner within that too. And he is really the data deal analysis guy. And so we have every phase of the game. I think you need to figure out what your skill sets are, and there's always going to be someone lacking what you have, and vice versa. So we tried to find complementary skill sets. I think for us, we tried a bunch of different strategies too. And that's what we kind of talked about earlier when you were on our show, Jesse, is like, we did the long-term buy and hold. Love those. Those are the foundational piece for our portfolio. We've tried Airbnb. Cory has a great short-term rental down in Tampa. We had one up in the Poconos for us that candidly, it just didn't work out as well as we thought due to regulations changing and not allowing us to have a hot tub in the community. And we're just like, that's where you make your bread and butter. And then we were like, okay, let's scale up even further and do the boutique hotel, where we had multiple partners in that, right? But that is one where we have 12 of the units are long-term, and then the remainder of them are short-term. And we renovated that entire project. But you're only as good as your team, I say, right? And it comes down to vetting those people out. And Cory and I knew we weren't going to be managing our W-2 jobs. We were not going to be the guys boots on the ground every day, underwriting deals and taking them down and putting the contractors in place and handling it. Just we couldn't manage it with the lack of time. So how could we figure out our piece in all of these deals and with these systems? And then at one point we jumped in and had a minority share in the short-term hospitality business. We had 100 Airbnbs under management that we were managing, and it became a ton. It was awesome. It was fun. We learned a lot. But now, kind of as we've talked about in a number of ways, like 2025 is changing the game, and midterm is becoming a very popular thing. We've transitioned, and we can kind of get into this, but the 10 unit we have under contract, we bought that asset. It's basically a 6 unit on one side of the street, a 4 unit on the other side of the street. It's all long-term units right now. And now the business plan is to convert them to midterm units. And the whole strategy is it's right near Dartmouth College and by Dartmouth Health in Quechee, Vermont. And there are so many traveling nurses and grad students up there. And there's a 0.3% vacancy rate in New Hampshire. So we're like, or in Vermont, this side of Vermont. And so we're like, dude, there is no turnovers. There's nothing. Always going to be someone in there. So that's what we're looking for when we look at markets. Like, where are there a ton of people? Where's population growth? And people know how to analyze markets, but that's for us. We're really looking at it's where you buy. It's all about location, and then we can fit the strategy within that. But we are very specific to the area now, and you make your money when you buy.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Like being super keen on who's there, what the job growth. I mean, that's traditional, like kind of investing. But if you peel the layers back on that, like what companies are there, what are we talk about student housing, that's a big deal. And Dartmouth, you probably are able to get certain professors that come from out of the area that want to be in like a nicer place. Like that's where you get to come in and make a little bit more cash. And sometimes these colleges and education companies will actually pay for the folks to move, and they'll actually give them like $20,000 to find housing within the 3 months or whatever it is. So you'd be able to capitalize on that, which I think again is smart. And not only that, dude, I think I talked to you guys about this when I was on your podcast. What if you're able to buy these properties, and let's just say it's $1 million. You do some renovations, it goes up to 1.5, and you completely change the net operating income on that property. Dude, with contracts or something, now you have based off the rent that you're getting, now it could be worth 2.5. So you've literally been able to force, 1.5 million just by thinking creatively, getting out of the box, starting to recognize like, okay, here's the clients that I could get. Maybe you do get some contracts that are actually locked in with letters of intent for a year or even longer. And now you have a piece of real estate that's worth so much more. And I think that's just an incredible play. If a lot of people are scared of that because there's a lot of, you don't always get booked, right? There's the possibility of not getting booked. But again, if you're in a market that you already know has potential there, you already see where it's at, you're already starting to identify those things and maybe even start doing outreach early, dude, that's a freaking win-win. And it's cool that you guys are thinking like that because a lot of long-term investors don't think that way. And you guys sound like more of the modern investor that's doing a little bit of everything, which is really freaking cool. Hey everyone, if you are feeling stuck or not like you're making the progress you want in your midterm rental journey, I've got something that can change everything for you. Imagine being part of a community that's not only supportive, but filled with like-minded individuals who are driven to succeed just like you. Whether you are just starting out, looking to take care of your business to another level, my community is designed to help you break through those barriers. We're currently opening up registration for new enrollees, so if you're serious about building a thriving midterm rental business and you want to leverage my 10,000 hours of experience, this is your chance. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with others in the same path. I hope to see you guys. The link is in the show notes, and let's build something incredible together. Let's get back to this episode.
Yeah, we actually, Jesse, it's funny that you say that. I'm glad we're talking about this right now because it's very top of mind for us. So this project, this 10 unit, the rates for a 2-bed up there are like $2,200, right? But we've actually contacted Dartmouth Health, and the stipends are $3,000. So I mean, that's $800 per unit of what we have to do is furnish the property, and we never buy. I shouldn't say never, but it's very rare that we would buy a turnkey property. This property was flipped and quartz countertops, new floor, like it's beautiful. The only thing is we're taking that property and running a new business model out of it. And I think that's the cool part is like taking, yes, we could cash flow on $2,200 a month in rent, but what we're doing instead is we're turning it up to $3,000. We underwrote it as only 6 of the 10 units are going to be rented as midterm, but I think we're going to end up doing all of them. And then, we can always scale back if some of that doesn't work, but the desirability of this area, close to restaurants, close to, transit. It's actually on a country club. So the people that there with a small fee can like be a part of the country club, the pool, the 18-hole golf courses. So we've done the C+ class neighborhoods, and we've done the not really D, but like C neighborhoods. And what we've realized is that having a blend is almost like diversification of hedging your own bets in this real estate game. So sometimes we tell people like, yeah, you need a buy box, but we've got to this point now where opportunity comes and we can kind of figure out what our exit strategy or overall strategy is with the property without pigeonholing ourselves to only one specific strategy. And when you do that, you can have big wins, but you just have to mitigate some of the losses. And we're not afraid to lose at this point. It's like, now, it's a little bit different when you have investor money come in. Like we make sure that it is solidified. I'd rather lose my own dollars than investor dollars, for sure. But I'm saying that once we've seen what we like and what we don't like, and then we can kind of like go down that path a little bit further of what we do like.
That's freaking dope, man. Ryan, do you have anything to add to that?
I kind of think Cory nailed it. What I really do like about it is, you called it the modern investor. I'm thinking about the diversification strategy here too. And I think about, portfolios, right? A lot of people invest in the index funds. I'm thinking the index funds, those are the safe bet. Those are the long-term buy and hold for us, right? Then you get an Airbnb. That's like buying the Tesla stock. And then you get another 15 unit, if you will, or the 10 unit. And that acts as your Bitcoin, right? And like I'm just, for people that invest in stocks, I want to like align this with where your brain's at. And you're taking shots on certain things, but the tried and true index funds, those are the stable buy and hold long-term 30-year that we typically do. You can run those as midterm rentals if you'd like. It's the strategy within. It's just what box are you buying in? And so, I just think it's cool to talk. We've done a couple of videos on stocks versus real estate and like, what are you in 2025? What's the best play? We're recording this in February, and February typically is the most volatile month of the year outside of October, I think it is, for the stock market. And you see, it's just crazy right now, dude. And it's real estate will be it for us. It's like our tried and true. And that's where we do similar thing to you, where we just, you stack up the cash, you build all these businesses, but the money that you're bringing back in, we just reinvest it into real estate. Right. And like, that's our long-term play. We're trying to mitigate as much risk as possible and just have those big hits, every couple of years, right? Or every year, if you will, because we have a lot of things they'll refi or we'll be able to sell them as these big assets. And then for Cory and I, 50-50, we'll just keep the long terms for as long as possible until, one or the other guy wants to buy each other out, or if we need to sell one for some cash, and, very diversified. And I think it's just, I want to make a point. Like, you don't have to just be the narrow niche every time. You need to try stuff. And we're the kings of trying stuff and then finding out what we like. And then we're like, okay, let's focus on that lane.
Yeah. And there comes an intuition with that too. And you guys probably see this now with the long-term space where you can look at a property and just like know already, like, this is going to work. Like, it doesn't matter like what we do to it. We could be bare minimum contracting grade stuff. It's going to work as a long-term rental. Like, I have that now where I could see a property, somewhat know the market and be like, I already know this is going to kill as a midterm rental. This will kill as a short. Like, I just have that intuition now after doing it so many times. And you guys work with students too. You get to see like what they do and what their product look like, and you know how it ends up working out. Like, you kind of get to learn it. So it's one of those things that it comes with time, man. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for a decade, and you start to just like feel when you go into a property, like, this is going to work, or even see photos and just like, you know what the market. I'm hearing you talk about Dartmouth, and you're not talking about the college right now. You're talking about the healthcare system. Am I right?
Both.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sweet. Okay, like, I already know that's probably going to kill. Like, that market's going to kill just based off of those two things right there. And it's like there's little pockets of places where like I feel that, and this is where people get to peel back more layers. Like, for me in the Central Valley, I happen to work in healthcare, and I saw the need back then. I happened to talk to a couple professors that worked at a local college, and they were just like, we have 30 graduates a year, and out of those 30 graduates, only about 5 of them actually stay in the Central Valley. And there just was never enough of clinicians to meet the demand for patients. And there still isn't today. There's only like a couple colleges that have graduates. Dude, nobody stays in the Central Valley. They go work somewhere else and make more money. And like from Bakersfield all the way up to past Sacramento over by Redding, like, that is a big spot where there's not a lot of clinicians. So like, if anybody buys property up and down that line, like, the likelihood of you being able to work with travel nurses like is extremely high, because there's just not enough clinicians to meet the demand of patients. And same thing with this, like, you start to find these little opportunities or little niches. But again, I think every market poses to have its own specific, unique kind of selling point in a way. And it's up to you to decide what that is. And either is that tool going to be midterm? Is it going to be short term? Is it going to be long term? Like, that's where we get to decide what that is. And I think you're right? It's like, you know, you have to look at it like diversification. I think it's one of the most important things when you're building something, especially real estate, because most people think about short-term gains and not long-term. Real estate is not short. It's like the longest game on the planet. So like, when you buy this, for all of you newbies out there, yes, cash flow is cool, but you got to think about the long play, because that's what real estate actually is. It's not a short play. Yes, you get cash flow from midterm or short term, which is great. And obviously you get it from long terms in certain markets, but the real play is the long game. And do you see people like they get stuck on that, Cory or Rai, where they think it's going to be this immediate, like, you're just going to make money right away. And yes, you can force the property to go up in value, but like, unless you're pulling that out and reusing it, and especially with rates right now, like, who wants to pull out? You're not refining anytime soon. I feel like that. Like, I have actually took that out of my head. Like, I'm not even thinking about refining at all, because it's just like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I feel like we talked about, I think it goes back to the beginning of when you're learning about cash flow in general, and like building your financial house and getting it in order, right? It's like you have all these silos of cash, and if you have more real estate, you're essentially just able to pay yourself either more cash flow over time, or get these big hits of appreciation, and then, you know, eventually a big, how do I say this, like a lump sum of cash when they refi or they sell. For us, the market changes so much where we're like, this year we thought we were going to have 2 refis potentially. And we're like, it's probably not going to happen. And it might be a year or 2 down the line. And so for me, getting into the game, when you see on social media, my main point here is like, everyone on social media makes it sound sexy. It's like, real estate, get in. This is what makes the most millionaires. But you really have to be in it for the 30-year play. This is your retirement in a way. I hate to use the word retirement because everybody just wants like that time freedom back. But for me, I'm just looking at all this as a long runway, right? And along the way of my life, if I can have a ton of these planted, a lot of my money's in the ground. Cory and I both, and probably you in a certain way too, right? It's like, but once they start going, it's like, hey, I just made my salary back in a year from that one property, right? So those are the thing. If you can have 15, 20 of those over the course of your life as massive hits, plus you continually invest in the stock market over time, you're just going to be in a really great spot. And then your active income, you know, you still have to have streams coming in, but if you have all these different streams of income coming in and then big hits, that's what really sets you up. And then when you hit your, let's just call it your 40s, your 50s, I can put that just arbitrary number on there. If you're going to be sitting in a really good spot. And that's when you see people that have a lot of the time freedoms. They're like, well, how does he have all the time to do what he wants? He can take his kids to school, be their coach and all that. It's like, Well, he set himself up over the last 20 years and he has money coming in that he set up when he was 32. You know what I mean? So that's my vision, right? And that's not true for everybody, but that's how Cory and I are kind of like viewing this thing. Like, let's set ourselves up now and like go as hard as we possibly can when we have the most amount of energy possible and get into as many creative deals that align with our buy box, and then stay true to our financial picture by investing dollar cost averaging. We're going to be in a really great spot. And just don't live above your means. We can get into the whole FIRE movement. I won't go there, but I get excited when we get on this topic. So it's for us, it's just that long game, man. And I think too many people, back to your point, really see real estate as that get rich quick scheme. And it's really not that. You can make some serious dough, I think, if you become great at wholesaling and you don't hold any of your property and you can flip, bill after bill there. Or if you're flipping, but it takes a long time. And like flippers are getting crushed right now in certain areas. Like I just talked to my mentor today. He's like, dude, I have guys that are gonna have to hold for 3 years because they're just so underwater on these things. And so I have a lot of thoughts there, but to your point, yes, long-term for sure.
Yeah. I talked to a lot of flippers in the last year, dude. And a lot of them like bought all kinds of property in 2022, 2023, had notes on them. Bro, they have to hold the property. It's not they can't sell it for what they wanted to. They're not going to make what they wanted to. So like, I need to figure out how to cash flow on this. I need a midterm rent or I need a short term. Like, what am I going to do? And these guys don't want to manage freaking properties. Like they're used to like the go new property and all that stuff. And I think there's a lot of people that are in hard positions right now. And the market's kind of weird. In certain pockets, it's doing really well. Certain places, it's like I'm in California, Central California. Dude, a lot of our properties are sitting right now. Like they're sitting for way longer than they normally would. There's price reductions that are happening right now, but then you go to, San Francisco or, the Bay Area somewhere, and San Francisco is obviously it is low, but those properties are still selling like this and $400,000-$500,000 over asking. And it's just like, I don't know, man, there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now. Not only that, but I feel a lot of squeeze from people that just, that are living paycheck to paycheck. Like, dude, everything's getting more expensive. Like it's becoming a lot more difficult. And I think that's what's going to roll into 2025. Like my thought process for 2024, you guys was like, let's just get through this year. 2025 is going to be like, it's going to be all good. And then we roll into 2025 and yes, we are good, but it's like, man, what's coming? Right. I heard Tony Robbins this morning. I was listening to one of his a podcast he was just on. He was talking about winter is coming, but he talked about that like during COVID too. But he talked about a different winter this year where they're like the cycles of people getting worried and getting scared of like, civil movements and all these other things. And he's like, you got to be super steady with what you're doing. Stay, keep your head above the clouds and make sure you're paying attention to what's going on or underneath the clouds. And, we just talked about these kind of cycles that are, Ray Dalio talks about this all the time, like economic cycles and how to actually take advantage of these kinds of things that are happening. And I think you guys kind of did that with COVID. Like you guys came in at the right time when a lot of people were kind of worried, but probably weren't starting stuff like that. And I think now in the next year or two, we're also going to have that same type of movement. And that's where I think midterm rentals and like some other smart investment moves are going to pay off in the next 3 to 5 years if you happen to take the risk and do it, which leads me to this question, you guys. Where do you see most investors coming in now? Like, where do you see the biggest mistakes happening with new investors?
One of the things is I get a question I get a lot. How long will it take me to retire off cash flow for my rental properties? And it's not the wrong question, but the answer they don't love. And so I think that talking about what we just talked about, having this get rich quick mindset, Rye put it really well. Like this game, if you stay in it for 5 to 10 years and you build up a base and you buy one property a year for 10 years, that was our goal, by the way, when we started, one property a year for 10 years. Yeah. And it ballooned because we put ourselves in the mindset of the people that have already bought one property a year for 10 years. And then they introduced us to the people that are buying 10 properties in a month. Right. So yeah. I think what people get wrong is the expectation. And the expectation should be, can this replace your income? Absolutely. But if you look and you find good deals, don't overthink a good deal. A long-term rental that cash flows $200 to $300 a door, that is a good deal. And what you do with that is you buy it. And then what happens is that $200 to $300 a month in cash flow in 2025 becomes $800 a month in cash flow in 2029 or 2030. Okay, yeah. So you do that multiple times and then 2037 comes and you're like, holy shit, look what I just did. But you can't think about it in this binary, or maybe not binary, but like sequentially, like I'm going to have this amount of cash flow in this year and next year I'm going to have this amount of cash flow, because it's not linear. It's going to go up and down and left and right and sideways. But if you take 8 years of your life and you dedicate it to buying real estate, long-term, short-term, medium-term, whatever you want to do, if you take that time frame and you look back, I can guarantee you, if you're smart and you make calculated decisions, that you're going to be in an amazing spot, potentially be able to actually walk away from something and have work optionality from what you do. And it's the time. What people get wrong is the time frame, in my opinion.
Yeah, Brad, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I love this, man. And I think about this, it's just I'm trying to think of the best way to word it, but the way Cory mentioned getting into a property now, it doesn't, the rates and the price and all that, even if you looking at something that cash flows $200 or $300 a month right now, most people, if they're reading the books from 4 or 5 years ago when real estate was the hottest thing, right? Bigger Pockets was really just taking off. They're like, well, I can make 800 to 1,000 off of just a single family or a duplex, right? And that you can probably do that today, but it's going to be in a war zone and you're not going to want to manage it. And a property manager is not going to manage it. If you're doing the long-term buy and hold, maybe you can do it on a midterm. We could talk all about that. But my point is, if people don't see that, they stray away from it. They're like, real estate's not for me. And then what we see a lot too is a lot of people will go in and they'll study a ton, they'll read a ton of books, and then they'll get to this point where they're analyzing deals and they're like, okay, let's go. And then they see the $200-$300 of cash flow and they're like, I'm just going to wait for the next one. Maybe I'll find the 5 or 7. And then they never take action. And Cory and I were fortunate enough. We were doing that, but then we looked at each other and we're like, dude, we got to force it. Cory had he did his house hack and then he got his duplex. And I was like, the property we looked at originally was like $600 in cash flow. We ended up buying it. It ended up going to $800 in cash flow pretty quickly because of some of the things that we did to the property. And I think if people can get in the mindset, like this is you're building yourself like mini mountains along this landing strip that I mentioned to you, and like almost like mini retirements in a way. Like if you can get yourself, as Cory mentioned, like 10 properties over the course of 10 years, you're going to be in such an unbelievable place because rent's going to continue to rise. Your tenants are going to pay down your loan. You have the tax benefits, depreciation, all of these things that the stock market does not give you. And if you can continue to invest in the stock market as well, I know I kind of mentioned this as already, like your whole financial picture. That's the benefit of real estate investing. It to me is like, as long as you can wrap your head around the long term, this is a retirement play in a way versus I'm going to make $1 million in 3 years kind of play, then you'll be in a good spot. Because I think people get false expectations and they feel like they're let down and they don't want to do real estate anymore. It's like you can build a business around it and you can build other things around it. I think there's just so many benefits to having real estate in your portfolio once you have the 401k, once you have the Roth IRA, once you have the brokerage account, and then you get into this bigger game and you start playing real life Monopoly. But I think Cory kind of nailed it perfectly with the way he said it. And it's just, for me, we do get students that come in or people that are interested in the program. And when they're just so wet behind the ears because they hear things on podcasts and they feel like, well, if they're not making it in 2 years or they can't replace their job in a year with a cash flow from one property, then it's just not for them. I'm like, what? I don't know what world you're living in. Then they just go buy just Bitcoin and they hope it goes up and they're buying at the wrong time. And my sentiment is kind of with you on the market, man. Like I'm thinking of like how volatile things are. And if you can weather the storm any year, the market's going to continue to go up and down, and that'll change with real estate too. But I found that real estate is tried, true, and steady compared to the stock market, right? And so if you can just focus on buying that one per year, you're going to be in such an incredible spot. And then it allows you to try other things. And maybe you try the midterm game. Maybe you get into larger multifamily. Maybe you get into commercial. So there's a lot there. But I think the tried and true one a year is a great plan.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I don't know if you said this right or you said it, Cory, but basically, you were talking about buying a property a year and then you got around people that were buying 10 properties a month. And that communal aspect right there is so important because it allows you to like see past your own vision of yourself and you get to see somebody else doing that at that level. You start to realize like, dude, they're not really that different than me. They've just been in this game longer and like they see the things that I don't see. And then you start to get around them and you're just like, fuck, like I actually could do this. Did you guys have that like moment where you met somebody and you're just like, this is just a regular schmo, just like me. And like, I could do this exact same thing. They just have A, B, and C, and I just need to connect on that end. And a lot of real estate is just connecting with the right people, which I don't think people really realize, but it's a lot of networking. I think, Ryan, you talked about it earlier, but it's a lot of networking, but it's also a lot of, showing what you can do, not just telling. I think that's an important play. But was there one specific moment that you guys had where you're just like, I can freaking do this. This guy's doing it. Like, I know I can.
Yeah, I think it's like the goldfish analogy. I don't even know if this is actually true, but everyone's heard it where it's like the goldfish is in a bowl And, he can only grow to a certain size, and then you put him in a bigger bowl and he can grow to that size. And I really, really do think that putting yourself in the rooms with people who are a few steps ahead of you have changed the game for us. So how do you do that, right? I mean, obviously we hear all the time, you got to provide value, but while we starting a podcast, we were able to get people free marketing for their business and their life and the things that they wanted to do. So I remember this like it was yesterday. Chad Carson was the first person to take a chance on us, like episode 12 or something. He's like, yeah, I'll come on the show. And then at the end, he was like, you guys are pretty good at this. You guys should keep doing it. We're like, wow, okay. Next thing you know, Brandon Turner, David Green, Tariq Al-Musa, we're talking to all these people, and I'm like, okay, what are they doing? And then we were able to, like I said, organically network and get in those rooms literally like in this Zoom and say, and we asked the questions that we actually organically wanted to know. Like, we're like, how did you do this? And then by them saying the exact thoughts that we were having, except they just took action. Like, yeah, I remember Brandon talking about his property, and I think it was Washington, right? Like, and he was just like, yeah, I bought a duplex. That was my first deal. And I'm like, okay, now he has 8,000 units. Like, I'm going to buy a duplex. Like, I'm going to go buy a duplex. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to put myself in a position to have conversations with people who are just like doing bigger and doing more. And you naturally rise to the occasion. You naturally become more like these people. As long as you approach it the right way by saying, I'm going to authentically be me. I'm going to show up as me all the time. I'm not going to pretend like I know something I don't. And every time I get in a room where somebody asks me a question I don't know, I just say, I don't know. I can find out the answer for you. Like, I can help you because we know our network knows. But I think with our community and what we've built, we teach people how to buy their first or next rental. What I realize, that's the most value I can bring to somebody. We can change the trajectory of somebody's future if they learn how to invest in that, just the power of one, just that first deal. If you can get that first deal, you can go through the training wheels and learn from some guys who are a few steps ahead. We don't have 1,000 units. We were at 8 units 3 years ago. Like, we know how to get from 0 to 1 or 1 to 5. And if you learn that game, you can do it too. It's all about the expansion of your mindset, in my opinion.
Totally agree. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I love it, man. I have so much to say on this, and I'll try to keep it brief because I tend to ramble. You guys already heard that so far, so sorry for rambling. But I do that. It's my thing. I just think getting around the right people is the fast track to success. And it has to be the right people, kind of as Cory mentioned, like people that have done it before you successfully. But I remember vividly, and I hope he doesn't listen to this or hear it and like think I'm making fun of him because I'm not. But there's one I read Brendan Turner's books front to back. I have them all on my shelf back here. And I think he does an incredible job of dumbing down real estate for the most basic brain. And like, I could really understand the process of buying. And I'm like, dude, I can do this. And then I listened to him on Bigger Pockets. Like, he was our coach, right? Whether he knew it or not. And there's a picture of him. He's like dyed his hair black. He's got this mohawk. And I sent it to Cory. He had no beard or anything. This was pre Brandon Turner and the Big Lights, right? And beardy Brandon. And I sent it to Cory, and I'm like, dude, this guy has 7,000 units and you're going to let him be better than us, kind of thing. Like, just to motivate, like goofing around, because he looked like a little high schooler in the picture. And I'm like, dude, we were all there. And my point was like, that was Brandon at the beginning. And like, I just think about myself, like at the beginning of every journey. And like, when we first did our podcast, man, I'm telling you, we were so bad. Horrendous. We still have it on YouTube. Feel free to go look at it. Anyone listening. It's
don't go.
It's super embarrassing. And it's like, we're in our sweatshirts. I have glasses on and a hat, and I'm like, we're just talking. It's during COVID. We're just talking about real estate and like our thoughts on how the world is going to shift from COVID, right? And then this whole thing evolved. But my point was, when we finally bought the property together, we proved to ourselves that we could do it. And then we built out the system and the business around it. And really, all sometimes it takes is someone to believe in you, and then for you to believe in yourself. Coach Carson believed in us to start the podcast. He's like, you guys did a good job. And then we're like, dude, if you think we're doing good, we're going to keep trying, because we read your book and like, you're this name and shining lights for us. Then Cory and I buying the property together, I always thought I would buy real estate and maybe become an investor, reading the books. You think you could do something, but when you actually do it, you're like, that wasn't that hard. Like, we figured it out. And so my point to you is like the getting around the right people allowed us to scale quickly and scale quicker than we would have been to go alone, I think. And now we are big proponents of investing ourselves. We've talked about this, Jesse. Like, Cory and I spent just about 6 figures in coaching, mentorship on ourselves. Really, like, how do we build out a coaching program? How do we invest in certain lanes of real estate? How do we become better at ourselves? How do we network? How do we mastermind? And that has paid off so far for us, and not only just capital within real estate deals, but relationship capital. Now you have someone in your phone you can call for any problem you have in real estate. Like the fact that I know if I'm struggling with midterms or something within the coaching program, I could say, Jesse, dude, like we are struggling bad. Can we grab some time in your calendar in the next couple of weeks? And you'd be like, dude, yeah, I got you. Because you already did give us a 30-minute masterclass before we got on the podcast just for being a nice guy. And what I found is most people are afraid to ask for help. And they think that people ahead of them are not willing to help because they have all the time, all the money in the world, or they have no time, but they have all the money in the world and they don't want to. We have found that the people in this game that have the most success are actually the ones that want to help because they see their younger self trying to come up the ladder and try to find success. And at that point, when you have so much success, you just want to give back in a way. And so we are trying to do this as we go through the journey, so we don't have to wait till the end of the line. And if we can build up this army of investors along the way that are changing their lives, and that gives us fulfillment on a daily basis. And like that, I think truly gave us, we've had some big hits on deals, but to get a DM or to get an email from someone saying you changed their life and you were able to get them a property that you basically help them buy income for themselves, there's nothing better, man. Like truly. And I know you can attest this. You probably have 1,000 stories on this, but it makes me feel good.
Yeah, bro. It's one of the best feelings on the planet to get those messages, notes, text messages, or I had somebody's child reach out to me like my parents bought this and like this, like years later. It's super, super awesome. But you're right on self-development. You're never going to go past who you are. Like you're never going to be able to grow past who you are unless you invest in yourself. And I think that is such a valuable thing for people to take away. I know we're getting back to the top of the hour right now. I just have a couple rapid fire questions for you guys. Would you rather rent to a Bigfoot or aliens?
Aliens, I feel like they're way more interesting. And like, honestly, maybe I had to read minds. It could take us to a whole new stratosphere. No pun intended with that. Bigfoot, boring, too big, ruins a house. Yeah. I don't know. Aliens for sure.
That's a good, dude. I never actually thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Ryan, if you could invest in a strategy, like if a strategy was a hairstyle, which one would you invest in and why? Which hairstyle would you be?
Oh, wow.
Ooh, if I could invest in it, would be a hairstyle. I think I'm just going to go with the mohawk because I do like a little bit of flash and doing something different. I think if you can walk into the room, give that first 5 seconds of, hey, that person, that thing's interesting. Not shiny object syndrome, but I'm more the progressive. Let's try something new. I love the Airbnb. That's why we're progressively doing midterm rentals for 2025.
I love that, dude. What's the worst item you've ever found that was left behind from a tenant? Ryan, anything?
Oh, I don't know if we've ever shared this on the podcast, but I don't know if you know what I'm going to say.
Dildo?
We had fortunately kind of like like where the person passed away, like kind of like an outprint of their body almost, not quite like Criminal Minds style, but like, she died over there. And it was like, so that and then Ryan and I proceeded to not forget to hire 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And we were literally taking all of the items outside of the house all day long. And then we finally caved and had them come. And it was like the best $700 we ever spent. Probably that, dude, which is pretty rough.
Dude, so with that clean out, that property, I tell you, he nailed it, right? On the corner of this room, there's literally a blood.
Were you going to say that, Ryan? Would you have said that?
I was actually, no, I'm glad you said that because behind the cupboard, we actually found a diamond ring. It wasn't worth anything. It was like not a knockoff ring, but it was just like a lower, whatever. It was, I don't even know if it was a diamond, but it was a ring. I'm like, whoa, this must have been the 99-year-old woman's ring that she just left or whatever. And then they're like, yeah, that's great. You found the ring. And we found this old like Polaroid camera in the house too. And then they're like, yeah, by the way, that's where she died over there. And we're like, what? And then you have this rug. It was like a cream rug with this literally maroon dark blood stain. And so, yeah, the weirdest left behind was unfortunately where she passed away.
Damn, Ryan, these are going to be some really good clips for short form media, especially the Bigfoot and alien. That's going to be a really good one. So you guys are awesome, man. Where can folks go find you if they want to join your program, if they want to learn more about you, if they want to listen to your podcast, Wealth Juice? Where do people go to find all that information?
Yeah, the best place to get in touch with us is Instagram at Wealth Juice Official. If you DM us, you're talking to me. You're not talking to Ryan. You're talking to me. The best place to go for our podcast, obviously, is wherever you listen to podcasts. If it's the Wealth Juice podcast, YouTube, we're growing a little bit there too. I really like some of the YouTube content we're putting out. So if you want to listen to our long form, the podcast, but Instagram is where we post every single day. We're answering DMs. We're talking to people. We would love to chat. And if you're interested in trying to get your first or next property, like I tell this people all the time, if you're trying to go from 10 to 20, don't come to us. You can find better people. But if you're trying to go from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, and you feel like we might be your vibe, which some people do, hit us up and we'd be happy to chat.
Love it. Your vibe attracts your tribe. That is totally true. Cory, Rye, you guys are awesome, man. Thanks for spending time with me today. And I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave all you guys' information in the show notes down below. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Jesse, you're the man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the JV podcast. I'm Jesse Vasquez, your host. I appreciate you for listening. And if you could do me a huge solid, go like and subscribe to this. This helps us tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.